what about the feed value of some of these grasses that we're now trying to introduce into the paddocks?
Yes. In relation to native grasses, the feed value on many of them are as high as any of the introduced ones. Like protein levels of things like some of the better species of Danthania are 20% and Microlina also is 20% or so. Any of the summer growing species are generally have lower protein levels, but they're often around 14-15%, providing they're growing actively at that time. But the key to production in agriculture really is not just simply focusing on one plant, like focusing on Phalaris or focusing on lucerne, but really looking at a great range of species. At least 30, up to 50, and even to 100 species in a paddock. Now that seems almost unbelievable and impossible, but our grasslands in these areas would have had 200 and 300 species in them quite easily. So it's certainly achievable, but it's the diversity of species where we get the production from.
So how do we get those good species that we want in there and not the species that haven't got the food value for our plate?
Nature does tend to look after itself if we give it the opportunity. What happens with the species we have now, and this time we're talking about native species, they are the remains of the grassland. The ones we've got often in our paddocks are the ones that livestock won't eat, the sheep and cattle don't like to eat. But they are the basis to build a grassland off.
Right.
And if we leave them there and encourage not only them to grow, but more specifically the better quality ones to grow, which these processes will do, we'll start to get more diversity in our paddocks and start to build a diverse grassland. So any herbicides that we use is very kind to those plants that are already in there. We can certainly control weeds, and we should, if we want to get good grain yields. The basic agronomy principles still apply, and we certainly control weeds with very selective herbicides. And those herbicides are used, not only the right herbicide, but timing of that herbicide application is very important also. In these areas, in Victoria in particular, Roundup is not a good option at all, because one of your early plants that recolonise areas in Victoria is Danthania or wallaby grass, and Roundup is even 200 mils of Roundup will kill wallaby grass.
With this combine now, these points are only 1/4 inch wide, so that and set up on 30 centimetre spacings, so that we don't get very much damage at all to the native pastures. We only tear an odd plant out of the ground, and the little bit of disturbance encourages the rest to get more recruitment of the seed that is there.
Especially in Victoria here, we don't get the summer rains that you get. How do you think pasture cropping is going to take off in this area?
Yep. It is interesting. Most of Victoria, if you look at the 100-year rainfall figures, get 40% of their rain in the 6 months from October to March. So it's not as winter dominated as people think. And certainly what we're doing is capturing those summer rainfall events. And if we don't utilise them, we may as well only be getting 60% of our rain anyway. Like if we haven't got something there that grows actively through those summer months, we may as well only be getting often 300 and 400 mil, even in a 600 mil rainfall. So there's no reason why we can't get those back into our paddocks. And these techniques, which incorporate very good grazing management to give grasses time to recover from being grazed, and pasture cropping will certainly stimulate those grasses, providing we have some seed source in that paddock. natural seed source. So if there's an odd scattered grass plant in that paddock, we'll be able to stimulate seedling recruitment with these techniques.
The advantages of pasture cropping are improved ground cover and soil health, improved water use efficiency, more efficient use of rainfall, increased perennial plant numbers and diversity, increased soil carbon levels, decreased erosion, nitrogen use efficiency, weed control, reduced crop diseases, increased overall annual productivity, low risk, healthier and more resilient ecosystem.